at pretty much the same time, two musical adjacent lawsuits took place, and that's really weird. Hello and welcome to Off Book, a podcast this week about the Bridgerton musical lawsuits and the illegal church production of Hamilton. Broadway gets sued every so often. Paradise Square got sued last month, but now we have two within like 3 days. So let's discuss. I don't know how much either of you know about the Bridgerton musical. Um, it
I followed it since like the beginning.
Yeah, it started out as basically just a Ratatouille musical, but different.
Yeah.
Um, and then made headlines when Netflix kind of out of nowhere decided they were going to sue them. But
Yeah.
it but then it came out that Netflix was fine. I mean, because Netflix was fine with it. They were like retweeting clips from it on their official Twitter account, and
Hmm.
then apparently the reason they sued them was because the musical team decided to perform concert editions of it for
Oh
profit,
yeah.
which is a direct violation of the copyright. And so
Hmm.
Netflix was like,
Well, okay, we're not okay with it anymore.
Yeah.
Well, the one thing that I do know about it is that apparently everyone's on, well, not everybody, I guess, but like most people are on Netflix's side rather than the
right,
Bridgerton musical people's side because I guess Netflix did reach out and was like, hey, like we want to make this an actual thing. And the other, like the team was like, no. And then they did it anyways.
mm-hmm.
Um, that's like a shortened version of what I've seen, but like that's kind of how it went down. And so everyone's like, well, they kind of did it to themselves. Like Netflix literally offered to give them a deal and they
Right.
didn't do it. And now they violated copyright.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm. From what I've been able to gather, it sounds like it started as something it's just on social media, and so Netflix was fine with it. And then when they wanted to record the cast album, and they wanted to do one benefit concert for like the UK actors, like what Ratatouille did, and they reached out to Netflix and were like, "Hey, are you gonna sue us?" And their official answer was, "We're not gonna sue you. We're just also not gonna like make it an official thing. We're just not gonna touch it." And the team was like, "We're not gonna do any more concerts. We're not. We're just gonna do the one thing." And then they did more concerts, and that's when Netflix was like,
Well, don't do that unless you buy a license from us, which you can do.
and then the team didn't buy the license, and they kept doing them anyway. And now Netflix is like,
Okay, you told us you weren't going to do anymore. We offered you the chance to do more, and then you said no and did them anyway. That's not going to work.
Yeah. Like,
Well, and that's like the whole Ratatouille thing is like back when, the pandemic hit and TikTok blew up, and all of a sudden now all these creators are making Ratatouille the musical, and it's like, okay, is Disney gonna sue them because this is technically like character from Disney, and so it's like that fine line copyright and what are you actually allowed to do and what you're not supposed to do. It's like Netflix gave them like a little like hole in between that line for them to go through, and they screwed themselves over.
right,
hmm I mean, like we all know like big companies like Netflix, like they don't mess around with that. Like I remember one time Mr. Beast made a video. If you don't know who Mr. Beast is, he's a YouTuber. Pretty big YouTuber. And he made a video about Squid Game in real life.
yeah,
And it was like this weird thing where he was making money and he built the entire set of Squid Game. And I don't remember if Netflix sued him or was threatening to sue him. Um, I believe they were threatening to sue him, but then he gave all of the money to like charity, and
right,
so he didn't pocket any of the money, so Netflix like backed off.
mm-hmm.
But like you can't mess with big companies like that because they're not like gonna play around. And so like I definitely do think like it was their fault.
Mm-hmm.
They had the opportunity, they could have bought the rights, which they definitely would have been able to pay for because of the TikTok profit money.
And the tickets they were
So
selling were like $145.
yeah,
So if they sell at the Kennedy Center, they're gonna be able to pay for it.
yeah, like you would have you can pay for it. So I definitely personally to me it's on them
Mm-hmm.
for not buying the rights when they easily could have.
Yeah. Well, and the creator of the Bridgerton series on Netflix apparently released a statement saying that, quote, there is so much joy in seeing audiences fall in love with Bridgerton and find creative ways to express their appreciation. But what started as a fun celebration by Baldo and Baird, composers, on social media has turned into the blatant taking of intellectual property solely for Baldo and Bear's financial benefit. Which, I mean, yeah. So it sounds like the dividing line there was if it's for charity, it's okay. Once you start making money from it without paying us money, then we're going to start getting involved.
Well, and I get it because you're literally stealing like somebody's idea and you're profiting from it. And not
Right.
really, I'm not saying they didn't credit them. I don't know if they credited the Bridgerton at all whatsoever. I don't know that logistics, but it's like if I like literally stole the concept of a book from Mark and I was like, hey, look it, guys, and I profit money off of it, he basically could sue me, quote unquote, for that. Like
I will
that's
see you
their
into the ground.
creative. Yep, Mark's gonna sue me. Tune into
Yes.
the next episode to see who wins.
Get ready for
But
off lawsuit.
it's I don't know, like it makes me feel that statement makes me feel bad for the creator because like this blew up into something that they didn't think would blow up.
Mhm.
And so obviously they're excited to see people like venture off on their ideas, but then all of a sudden they're making money from the original person's idea
Mhm.
Right.
and it just becomes a fine line of respect and disrespect.
Yeah.
Well, and I think what's interesting is that they've been very weird about whether they're crediting Netflix or not. Their original social media posts didn't mention Netflix at all. And then, at the request of Netflix's lawyers, they started adding a disclaimer at the bottom that says that Bridgerton was the trademark of Netflix and that it was used with authorized permission, and it wasn't. So that got really shady. And then they pointed out that the all like the materials of the show, like the backdrops and everything, had like material from the show on there. It was the direct lines of dialogue were copied from the show. It was like, okay, you have to credit the people if you're going to use that stuff.
Yeah, like I definitely feel like they should have worked with Netflix to kind of like create this because I mean it literally could hit Broadway if they really did that.
And
But
it wasn't even bad. It like got people into uh the show. If you look at the Spotify original soundtrack, it was getting like 1.2 million streams per song, whereas the cast album for Bridgerton the Musical was reaching almost like the top song had 8.7 million streams, which
mhm,
is like a lot. And I think
yeah.
that had they taken the chance to do this professionally, it could have been mutually beneficial for both of them. They just
Mhm.
decided not to do that because they wanted to make more money. And I don't think they knew what they were doing. Like I think that they
I
fully
don't
intended
either.
to. Because they told Netflix, we're not going to do more than one of these. We don't want to be the Bridgerton people. And I think that was their full intent until they won the Grammy. And everyone, like NPR, when they won the Grammy, called it the TikTok era of musical theater. And so they probably went, oh, we can earn money from this. The Kennedy Center wants us to do this. I
Mhm.
guess we're going to keep doing this now. And just didn't go about it right. So they need new lawyers or something. But
Yeah. And like it's not on the girls who created it. It was definitely on their team, which sucks for them because it's like maybe if they like wanted to do something with Netflix, they honestly probably would have made more money
right.
than
It would have
not.
been more profitable.
Yeah. But I think their lawyers are just so bad.
Yeah. And I think the conversations come up in the wake of this has been interesting because I think you have two camps about what this is going to mean for the rest of kind of similar projects.
Mhm.
Some people think that it's going to scare off anybody that's going to try to do this because they're going to see, oh, Netflix sued the people that made the Bridgerton musical. I'm not going to make any of these. But then there's
Mhm.
other people that went and saw, okay, well, that's not because they made a musical. It's because they like made money off of it. And so some people think it's better for the community because it's going to help foster an environment where you aren't profiting off of it, where you can do things within the law. And I think it's
Mhm.
interesting that no one really knows exactly what precedent this is setting for the fan content TikTok musical setting.
Mhm. Well, I mean, it's just like making like a fan film of like a movie, like
Mhm.
I mean, even then, like they could still like if you upload it to YouTube, I think technically they could still sue you because you're profiting off of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you just have to be super, super careful with these things unless you buy the rights.
Right. I mean, the issue is the definition of fair use is so weird because I mean, there are 4 points. It's basically, are you making money off of it? What copyright material are you using? How
Mm-hmm.
much of it are you using compared to the full thing? So, like, are you using some, like, 1% of it, or are you sampling from the whole thing? And
Mm-hmm.
then the effect of the use on the potential market or value of the copyrighted work. So essentially, how much money are you costing the original thing? So like the Kennedy Center Bridgerton performance was playing in the same city as the official Bridgerton live experience, which Netflix alleges would steal Bridgerton fans from their event.
I mean, probably.
And like it seems clear cut, but then you start getting into, okay, what about a YouTube fan film? That's probably, I mean, that's not commercial. It's not like it's stealing viewers, but then they are making money off of monetization. And maybe if people are trying to find things, and does that mean that they're going to criticize the actual movies? And how exactly do you define this? And I think we mentioned it in our fan content episode, where it's kind of hard to determine what fan content should be if you never really know what. I mean, companies could probably find justification to sue you for anything.
Oh, yeah.
In this case, the creators were clearly in the wrong here. But I think there are a lot of cases where it's not quite as clear cut, and who knows exactly what will get sued and what won't.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I know, because I know, like, fair use, like, things on YouTube, like, YouTube, you can't use more than, like, 45 seconds of a song or of a movie, because then that's, like, then you're profiting off of it. And, like, within, like, the 45 seconds, like, it's not, like, you don't really make money off 45 seconds, so they allow that. But like obviously with like Netflix and like Netflix shows and TV or like what or shows or movies, they're very particular. Like I can't just go write a TV show about a bunch of kids who are fighting monsters from Dungeons and Dragons, you know, like that. They'd be like, oh, you're literally ripping off Stranger Things. And it's like, oh yeah,
Right.
like they'll find a way to sue you either way. So because they're a big company, you know. So it's like you have to like know the fair use like laws, and they should have known better. Yeah, it's really not complicated to look it up on Google.
I think that the TikTok musical in this original state was kind of iffy on what exactly the fair use would call it, and if it were legal. It probably is illegal at the very least. Netflix wouldn't sue them. But then, as soon as you start making money from it, it's a pretty clear case of, well, you should have known better. And I think it's interesting when you compare it to something like the Ratatouille musical, where people were just so ready for the next TikTok musical when Ratatouille hit because it was this overwhelming success. And people, there were like a couple of different ones that started. Bridgerton appeared to be the most popular, and I'm wondering what's going to happen to that genre now that the most recent headline from one of them isn't you got Andrew Blythe Feldman to play a main character in this Disney movie Ratatouille TikTok musical, and everyone loves it. When the most recent headline is instead, yeah, we got sued. Are people going to keep doing that, or is that genre kind of dead because of the lawsuit that they got themselves in?
I think that it's gonna stay a genre. But I think people are going to be more cautious about it now, as they should have been in the first place. Like going around, so obviously like Ratatouille, Bridgerton. I'm sure there's a couple other ones that I've seen in passing on TikTok, but I think the creators are going to be 100% more careful and probably cover themselves as much as they can. Probably starting with permission first before they even think about doing anything.
Probably ideal.
Yeah.
And now it's time to pay some bills. Today's episode is sponsored by Harold Hill's Attorney Place. That's what it's called? Okay. Well, Mr. Winograd himself has moved on from selling his instruments to students and is now a lawyer. If you have any Broadway adjacent lawsuits, Harold Hill and his team of top lawyers will take your money and then represent you in court. Victory possible. Well, if you're interested in booking your services, I'm told he can be found right here in River City. Interestingly, about 3 days after everyone started talking about the Bridgerton lawsuit, we found out that a church in Texas illegally performed Hamilton, the smash hit musical written by Lin-Manuel Miranda, and changed the text of the show to fit the church themes that they wanted to promote. And it kind of goes against the whole point of the show, and it was not a very good rewrite to begin with. Also, the rights for the show aren't around yet. Also, their trailer directly ripped the audio from the Disney Plus trailer, even including like you can hear the click of the Disney Plus logo in the trailer. Also, they just copied the set. Also, they copied the costumes. Also, they just copied the blocking, which is illegal. Also, their poster was one of the old poster designs, but also they used the current poster design. Also, they streamed it, which is illegal. Also, they would use like the original cast recording in their ads, which is illegal. Also, they were just performing along with the Hamilton instrumentals, which is also illegal. And then they kept telling people they had the license to use it from their Hamilton team when they didn't, and they were selling Hamilton merchandise. And then when people started noticing, they canceled the Facebook event, but then kept doing it anyway. And then the Hamilton team sent them a cease and desist letter. So that was a lot. Which, like, oh, and then people found out that this wasn't even the first time this church did it. They did the same thing in 2018 with the production of Beauty and the Beast, where they added a scene where like Belle introduces Beast to the Bible instead of reading him a fairy tale. And like, okay, the rewrites to Hamilton are so bad. It's like Hamilton gets saved right before it's quiet uptown. There's a lyric, but I'm not afraid. My trust is in Jesus. Which it's just like that's not the lines in the show. Also, like all the censoring that obviously I have to do because it's a church, but like it's not good censoring. Like it's just there are so many bad choices being made here that I don't even understand.
First thing I have to say, I'm surprised they didn't like clone Lin himself because they copied every single other thing in this production.
Honestly.
So when I first saw this, I was on TikTok because I'm always on TikTok. I'm always on social media.
We know.
But I first saw this on TikTok and I thought it was just like a really bad but funny TikTok audio. So I was like, oh, perfect. And nope, it was an actual production and they were just that bad.
Yeah. I mean, I think that had they just like bought the license and performed the show, it would have been like a mediocre community theater production. It wasn't like terrible. The kids were talented-ish. There was a budget in there. They clearly were trying. It wasn't that bad, but then it's also like, okay, except you're not allowed to do anything that happened. Like nothing you did is allowed.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what's interesting is that because it's a church, there's an exemption from copyright that allows them to perform copyrighted songs because that's what their worship services are. And so had they performed like a song from Hamilton, it would have been weird. I don't know why you would have done that, but it probably would have been allowed. And they just chose to, do the one thing, I guess, all the things they couldn't do instead of the one thing they could do.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And it's like, if you're gonna like sing a copyrighted song, at least make it the actual song and not like something fake. It just, why are you performing Hamilton at church?
Right. Like if you pick a show,
like that's just like my first question. Like, why Hamilton?
If you want a show with religious undertones, pick a show with religious undertones.
Jesus Christ Superstar, right there.
Yeah, I mean, pick a show that's religious if you want a religious show. Don't
Joseph in the Technicolor Dreamcoat. Right there.
There's so many shows based on the Bible. Why would you do one and then that's not a good idea.
You know what? Maybe they should be sued by Lin.
Well, they definitely should be. They did so many things wrong.
Yeah, they did many, many illegal things that just don't make sense. So, there's not even like a question with this one. It's like, you can't do that.
You can't do any of that. Well, what I thought was interesting was that when the Hamilton team was alerted to this whole situation, they obviously sent him a cease and desist letter. Mm-hmm. Then they allowed them to do the next performance of the show as long as it wasn't live streamed. There were no photos and videos. They didn't do anything else.
Yeah.
And then they were going to talk to them afterwards. They said, we will be discussing this matter with the parties behind this unauthorized production within the coming days once all of the facts are properly vetted.
Yeah.
Which is basically the fancy way of saying, yeah, we're going to yell at you, but fine, I guess do your next show. Which I don't know why they did. Like, why wouldn't you just shut down? I don't know why you like. I mean, the terms of their performance are pretty strict now, but like, why would you let them do it all?
Yeah, like what's the point even in the first place? Like, why would you just keep doing it?
Yeah, I was gonna say, and this like directing back to Lin, this is very much so like showing his true character about how like humble he is. Like obviously he did say a quote on Twitter. I don't have the exact quote. I think Mark does.
I'm grateful to all of you who reached out about this illegal, unauthorized production. Now lawyers do though. And always grateful to the Dramatists Guild who have their back to writers everywhere, be your first play or your 50th.
Yeah, and so like he's basically like, okay, like I know what's happening. Just let the lawyers do their thing. like that's all he said about it, and he hasn't released like a full like actual statement about it yet. But it shows like how well he takes things and how developed his character is like as a person. Because
Mhm.
obviously, like he could have gone like full nuclear with them, and
Yeah.
obviously, like you said, they let them do the second production under this and this circumstance. And so I'm not like I'm all for people changing words if they need to, but completely changing the song to fit an agenda, like obviously like the church has their certain standards, and changing the song to fit their standards obviously did not go over well.
Yeah, and the dramatist guild official statement was a little bit more thorough, pointing out that they performed it without a license and they changed the lyrics without permission. They held up the production to shine light on the problematic pattern of some theatrical organizations performing authors' work without a license and rewriting the text without authorial consent. No
Mhm.
organization, professional, amateur, or religious, is exempt from these laws. No
Yeah.
writer's work, whether they are a student who has just written their first play or lin-manuel Miranda, can be performed without their permission. And it is never
Mhm.
okay to change the words, lyrics, or notes without their express consent,
Exactly.
which is interesting because I
Mhm.
feel like every production kind of changes some of the words or the notes. Um, I don't think I've been in a single production that hasn't changed something,
Mhm.
which again I think goes back to the Bridgerton thing, where I think all productions kind of ride that line of how much is okay to change. You know,
Yeah.
can you take the option up? Can you take the option down? Can we rewrite this harmony? What if
Mhm.
we censor this word for our high school production? How much
Mhm.
is okay? Because technically, as soon as you've changed anything, you're in violation of your contract. Assuming
Yeah.
you get the license to a show, which I guess not everyone thinks is necessary, but it is. How much can you? You're technically in violation whenever you change anything. But how much can you change before you're gonna get caught? Which
Mhm.
maybe just don't do that if you don't want to get sued.
Yeah.
Well, it's like that lines we were talking about of are you disrespecting or respecting the creator for one,
Mhm.
Right.
and where's that fine line of your copyright infringement or your fine? It's like
Mhm.
this very tiny, tiny line that maybe like comparing back to the Bridgerton thing, they didn't really notice, but the Texas church had to have known they were screwing something up,
Right.
considering
Mhm.
that all these rights and all these rules are written. Like you literally Google something, you Google a play or a musical, it'll tell you you cannot change the words. You have to ask for permission. You have to do this, this, and this. You have to pay for it. You have to do all these things. And they basically just said,
I am blind. I am a mole. I don't know what I'm doing.
and they just did it anyways.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's another situation where obviously the church is in the wrong, but it does make me wonder how much of copyright law is supposed it should be as strict as it is, because I think there's the two sides of it where on the one hand you want to honor the original authorial intent. You don't want to let people go changing lyrics like this. But also I've seen scripts that have this copyright message where it says if you change even one word, one syllable of this script without first contacting the rights holding organization that won't get back to you, you're going to be in violation of copyright law and you have the right to sue you. And then the next page is a message from the author saying, "Yeah, feel free to change whatever you want.
Mhm.
Update things, change references to your local town, do whatever you want. It's supposed to feel like a very, piece that's close to home." And it's like, okay, so
Mhm.
if authors are okay with it, why are you still? Obviously, in this case, that's not what happened. But it
Yeah.
does make me think: what if Lin-Manuel Miranda had said, "Actually, no, I'm okay with this"? Would the Hamilton team still have had legs to stand on to sue them?
Exactly.
And the answer is yes. But should they?
It's a very fine line
Mm-hmm.
between
Yeah.
what is legal and what's not. Because I mean, even because I mean, our high school did a performance of Grease
Oh
a few
boy,
years
I was
ago,
in that.
and our director took out Rizzo's pregnancy, which doesn't make any
Oh,
sense. And it was written
So
in the script
what is
for the
this?
high school version, but she took it out.
What is
I was
illegal
gonna say
production?
I can confirm this
Mm-hmm.
because I was in the production.
Yeah.
I had the script physically in my hand.
Which reminds me, I was watching High School Musical, the musical, the series, which is a good show with a terrible name. But they are doing a production of High School Musical, and they make it clear that even though they're not using the name, they are performing the version of it that's licensed by MTI, which I've been in. and they are very strict about what's going on, and then they've made some changes from the movie to the stage production, and the show shows some of those and some of the new songs and some of the changes to the music, and then also completely obliterates them by like having one of the actors write an original song and like clearly has the band plays a different instrumentation than is allowed by the score, and it's like okay, so Disney, the company that's known for suing literally everybody because they can
Mm-hmm.
to protect their copyright, is also making a show where this high school changes the show in a way that would get them sued so much in real life
Yeah.
because they can. And then in season 2, a character writes an original song for the production of Beauty and the Beast they're in, and someone points out, that's against the terms of your license agreement.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't last year. This is the same company. And it is just very ironic to me that the same company who is the most notorious for suing people about their anything is also going to have characters blatantly doing that with facing absolutely no repercussions, and then will call out that Disney will sue them. It's like, I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah, like it's kind of like I feel like at that point it's just Disney flexing, like being like, hey, look what we can do and you can't. Like,
Yeah. Our fake high school students can change the text, but you real high school students cannot.
cannot. Yeah.
Not. Sorry.
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know. It's weird. It's very, very strange world of trying to figure out what's copyright and what's not.
Right. And copyright law exists for a reason. You don't want people
Yeah.
misusing their copyright. There have been instances of people trying to use copyrighted material that they don't have the rights for, that clearly they don't know how to use. And there have been instances of people like the Hamilton situation, or like Bridgerton even, where they are misusing the material and they definitely need to be sued. I think both these cases, the rights holders were fully within their rights and were correct to sue the people that did this, because the creators of the subsequent piece of art were not using it correctly and should have been sued. But I think it also makes us wonder, okay, well, this is a very clear example of where someone is in the wrong. But there are also a lot of other situations where it's not as clear about where exactly the line is about what is supposed to be, what is illegal and what should be illegal under a better, more fairer copyright system that is not always in favor of the big corporation. When Disney could sue somebody for drawing a picture of Mickey Mouse, when is that really something that you should be doing? But also, on the other hand, companies will lose the right to trademark their name. Like Ziploc is a noun now, so it's a lot harder to sue somebody if they use the word Ziploc on an ad, because that's what it's called now. People love to make fun of the fact that Adobe really wants you to stop saying that you Photoshop something. They want you to say, and I quote, "This image was enhanced using Adobe Photoshop," which is really dumb. And like, I'm not gonna say that.
That's obnoxious.
It is obnoxious, but if everyone starts saying they Photoshop something, then Photoshop becomes the noun, and they can't trademark that anymore because there's an exception made in copyright law. So I understand why they're doing this, but also like there's got to be some form of cooperation between the two extremes of sue everybody and sue nobody.
Yeah, I'm usually like a huge advocate for like small creators and everything. But what these two groups did is very clearly like it's not like they're hiding anything in copyright laws. They're very, very outlined and very specific most of the time. So it's not like, oh, they had a hidden clause. No, they did not. You just did not pay attention.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. It's just like they had an opportunity to make them legit and they just didn't.
Right.
Exactly.
I mean, the church could have performed a couple numbers from Hamilton if they really wanted to. The Bridgerton people had the opportunity to buy a license and make this like a legal thing, and chose to do it illegally instead. Which, like, why would you do? Why, if they gave you the chance to buy a license, why wouldn't you? Why would you keep doing it without a license? I'm so confused. But
yeah,
I think it shows that maybe sometimes creators aren't smart. I'm smart. All of us are smart. The people behind Off Book Incorporated LLC are very smart. We are smart. Not everybody is as smart as we are. Some people would be very dumb. Like these people were kind of dumb. So don't be like these people. Be smarter.
Be smart. Moral of the story.
It's not that hard. Just like
it's really not.
I say as I uploaded an Avengers sketch, like it's clearly using music and characters from movies. So that's probably illegal. But again, you're like, where is that? Should that be allowed? I have no idea. I'm not a lawyer.
Yeah.
Talk to Harold Hill.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, this is about the end of this episode. Thanks for being here. Next time, a special interjection from Hailey, where she complains a lot. Until then, goodbye.